So you'll be able to tell how many people signed in?
Yeah. Right now there's 9 and 10. They'll be adding here over the next couple minutes, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Are you only letting in members of CAI?
People pre-registered for this, and it is members and non-members. It's managers and board members.
Cool.
Hi, Bill Ashby. We've got 29 on, and we've got a minute.
Okay.
I want to welcome everyone. We're going to get started here in just a minute. We're going to allow a few more people to log into the webinar. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Karen Mayfield, and I'm the Executive Director of CAI West Florida Chapter. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. Our speaker today is Ed McCrane. He is the Emergency Management Chief with Sarasota County, and he's going to talk to us about hurricane preparedness in today's age with the COVID-19. And I think he'll probably also touch on a couple other things. So with that being said, I'm going to mute myself and turn my video off, and I'm going to turn it over to Ed.
All right, Karen, thank you. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I appreciate Karen and CAI for setting this up. It's unfortunate that we can't do these in public like we have in the past, but I'm sure everybody understands under the circumstances. All of you are probably doing a lot of virtual things as well. But Karen and I were speaking about the importance of keeping people aware that hurricane season is approaching. We're a little bit over a month out, and this COVID-19 situation is going to present some challenges and cause us to do hurricane sheltering a different way. So I appreciate all of you taking the time to sign in today. So what I'm going to do, since some of you are from Manatee County as well, I'm going to I incorporated some of the Manatee County preparedness things that are a little different than ours, or just so you have that information as well. And I talked to Steve Litschauer, the emergency management chief there, and he's glad to know that we're doing this for all of you, and he appreciates your attendance as well. First of all, let me talk a little bit about the Emergency Management Division for Sarasota County. This is the team right here. There are only 6 of us on a daily basis, but right now I'm down 1, and that position has been advertised and closes tonight at midnight. So we've gotten some applications in, so I'll be taking some time to fill that emergency management officer position here shortly. Now, emergency management is really a big network of all of us in the community working together. And our job as emergency managers here at the EOC is to coordinate all of those actions of all of the partners that respond to a typical emergency. And of course, in this emergency, the Department of Health in Sarasota County and the Florida Department of Health are the lead agencies. We work out of this building. This was established in 2015 after many years in the downtown county administration building. When I got here in 2005, discovering that we were half a mile from Sarasota Bay at 16 feet, and a building that could only handle probably a Category 2. That was not a good way to do this kind of work. So we were able to get this support from our many elected officials throughout several years, as well as, of course, the taxpayers of Sarasota County. And this building is 5 miles from the coast. It's built to 250 miles per hour, and we had 400 responders in here for a Hurricane Irma. Obviously, we're going to have to trim that down for if a hurricane event threatens us this year, but we will be in this building, and we are there today responding to COVID-19 and helping all the partners. Obviously, hurricane season happens every year, regardless of what else is happening in the world. So we have to be prepared. June 1st to November 30th is the typical hurricane season, although hurricanes can affect us in May and into December and even outside of hurricane season because we are in a tropical environment. Now, the 2020 forecast, some of you may have been watching this and seeing that there are expecting to have an active season, but they say that all the time, and we can only treat it one storm at a time, but it's good to know what we may be looking at. So 14 to 18 named storms, 7 to 9 of those becoming hurricanes, 2 to 4 major Category 3 or above, and about 2 to 4 U.S. impacts. Hopefully not here where we are, but it only takes one storm, so we have to remember that. Now, when we operate for a hurricane, obviously we have to do a couple of things, but one of the most important things is evacuation, getting people out of harm's way before that storm surge and tide comes in to affect the community. So that's one of the reasons we have to evacuate folks, and I'll talk about the evacuation levels for our county as we move along. Now, surge is lower on the East Coast and on some parts of the Gulf, but on our side, unfortunately, it can be very higher with less wave action, but storm surge can be very deadly. So we have to be able to monitor that. For Irma, we were expecting 6 to 10 feet. And fortunately, we did not get that at all because where the storm made landfall. But storm tide does a lot of damage to bridges and to our barrier islands. So we need to get people off of there as soon as possible before the storm comes so that they can not be trapped and have difficulty getting help until you arrive by helicopter or boat or get the bridge temporarily patched. Hurricane storm surge really affected the Panhandle during Hurricane Michael back in 2018. These are some aerial shots from a drone that were taken after the storm. And in this storm, there was Category 5 winds and a very high storm surge as well. Now, when hurricane storm surge and tide does come ashore and does a lot of destructive damage, the debris pile can be astronomical. It can be overwhelming, especially in a coastal community where people have boats and all kinds of other recreational tools or toys that can end up along the highway here. This was Galveston. You can see that's a major road in Galveston, Texas in 2008 with a 24-foot storm surge. Now, knowing your level is very important because hurricane storm surge, and this is how we evacuate areas that are being threatened by that surge. Now, this is the hurricane map, the evacuation levels and hurricane evacuation center map that is in our guide that comes out every year. It's available at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council website. There's a link to it along with the guide, and we also will have that on our webpage here beginning May 1st. But the way you find out in Sarasota County what your hurricane evacuation level is, either for your property, your business, your home, you go to our website, which is www.scgov.net. And on that site, you will get the homepage for Sarasota County government. Over in the right corner, we see the arrow indicating I want to. A small menu will pop up, and you, in this case, want to find your evacuation level. So you select that. You will receive this tool where you can put in your address there in the upper right in the block that's indicated by the black arrow. and your location will pop up. It will let you know if you're in level A, B, C, D, E, or not in an evacuation level. And that way, when the EOC calls for an evacuation of level A and B, you know if that pertains to you or your home. This is Manatee County's evacuation map. They have a large quantity of shelters as well to provide. This is also in the regional guide that comes out every year. So in Manatee County, in order to know your level, you need to go to their website, which is mymanatee.org, and then look for public safety and emergency management. When you see this page for emergency management, you'll click on Know Your Level, which is the map there pointed by the blue arrow. Once you do that, the evacuation level map will come up. You want to select that. You want to enter your address on that next page, and then your level will appear as well. The other reason we evacuate is for hurricane force winds and the embedded tornadoes and the outer bands. So people living in manufactured homes, RVs, boats need to evacuate regardless of the category of storm. And we will make those announcements based on the information we get from the Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service. Hurricane force winds can be devastating to businesses and homes. We've all seen some examples in the past. This is from Hurricane Charlie in 2004. Many roofs were damaged, which creates a major problem for many people. And until you can get that done, the sea of blue tarps will be seen from above on many homes as they're waiting for that contractor to get there. Now, it's important, whether you evacuate or not, to do as much you can to protect your home. If you're going to stay in your home, obviously you want to protect the windows. And even if you leave, you want to make sure your window protections are covered with, your windows are protected with some type of a shutter, either plywood or a fabricated shutter of many varieties out there, because you want to keep that pressure on the house to keep the roof from coming off. You also want to make sure your garage doors are hurricane rated or upgrade to one, so you don't have it. That's the largest opening to your home. And if the garage door is breached, wind will enter and could damage your windows as well. I like to practice what I preach. So this is my home during Hurricane Irma. Have a variety of products on my windows, and my garage door does not look that clean as it used to, but that is the hurricane rated garage door. I use a combination of aluminum and steel shutters around the house and some clear, because you got to let in that light. Otherwise, you'll feel like you're living in a cave. And if you have a long area slightly covered with an overhang that protects sliding glass doors or French doors, the hurricane screens are really good to have. Now, tornadoes are also a big threat. They're in the outer band, and especially in the right front quadrant of the storm. And it can even affect us when the storm is way offshore. In 2005, Hurricane Dennis passed through the Gulf in July, and as it traversed the waters in the upper right quadrant in those outer bands, many tornadoes were spotted in the Tampa Bay area. There's a lot of ways to get the warning these days. We all have smartphones or even a regular cell phone. You'll get the wireless emergency alert. Some of you may have received some messages during COVID-19 from the state. Some of you in Manatee may have got one from Manatee County about the 65 and older and the mandatory curfews and things like that. But between cell phones and apps and telephone notification systems, TV, emergency alert, radio, and our local media, you can always get a warning. So it surprises me. Some people say they didn't even know a hurricane was coming. I think that everybody needs to be paying attention to this as we approach the season, especially. Most of you are familiar with the hurricane cone of uncertainty. This was the one for Irma, many days out. So we began our planning based on this track forecast. And as you see, the cone can be anywhere to the left or right of that center line. And this storm actually took that center line path for the most part up through Marco Island, up to the state. And fortunately, most of us here saw very little damage other than tree limbs and debris. Even the cone is not 100% accurate. 24 hours out, the storm can swing 100 miles to the left or right of the projected path in the next 24-hour period, and so forth. The further you go out, the wider that error margin is. Before a hurricane threatens, 48 hours out, our coastline will be painted with a hurricane watch, which tells you that in 48 hours we could start experiencing hurricane type conditions. And if that continues into the next 12-hour period, 36 hours before it, you will receive a hurricane warning. This was a campaign we started several years ago, but after lessons learned from Michael and Irma and COVID-19, quite frankly, it's more important to be prepared for more than 72 hours, but at least a week, maybe longer, if you can afford to do that. And you saw that, how quickly some items disappeared from the store shelves with COVID-19. Similar things happen during hurricane season, as you well know. Now, what can you do? The first three things listed here are the things that you can do to be prepared. You should create a disaster kit. You should not just do that for hurricane season. You should have it year-round for events like we're experiencing right now. You want to make a plan. What is your plan? What is your family going to do? If you own or rent or manage a property, what are your residents going to do? What are the staff going to do? You should have a plan of action on how to do those things. And then you should remain informed, whatever means possible, through social media, radio, TV, internet, so you know what's happening in your area. And it's best to watch the local news channels and not rely so much on the big networks that don't really know what's happening here in Sarasota County, but looking at the storm overall. 10 things you can do right now to prepare. If you haven't done these already, make that plan, pull together your disaster supplies. And in this case, you may want to add a few things like hand sanitizer and some cloth masks in the event that you need to be in an area where there are lots of people. Even if you're in a small area, or if you're in a home with multiple rooms and you're asked to, you're allowed to shelter there by friends or family, or vice versa, you're helping them, you might want to consider masks as well, or at least remain in that 6-foot distance, the social distancing, even within that house. We will be planning things like that for our hurricane shelters that we have to open for the public. You want to brace for that hurricane. You want to protect your home. Do the things that will keep it from being severely damaged. You want to help your neighbors out if they need assistance, and you want to discuss your evacuation plans with your family. Keep your pets safe. Make sure you plan for them. The only plan they have is the one you make for them, and they can't speak about it. So make sure you have food and medication and crates and the leash and all the things you need to do, regardless of where you're taking them. Again, take steps to protect your home, very important. You want to review your insurance prior to the storm coming. It's a great idea to take video or pictures of your property in the condition that it's in now, and then have that for the insurance company afterwards. You want to safeguard your important documents and your records in some type of a fireproof, waterproof safe or container, or at your safety deposit box at your bank, so that you can access these. These important documents are needed, and if they're lost, they're very difficult to replace. And then you want to know what to expect after that disaster. What could your area look like? How do you get information about the status of your area, whether you can come back? How do you inform your residents? Do you have a website, a Facebook page? Do you have a 1-800 number that they can call? You want to make sure you do that. The biggest decision, or the first decision, I guess, is decide whether you need to evacuate your home in the event of a hurricane. If you're in a mandatory, or we don't use the word mandatory after Irma, but if you're in an area being evacuated, you definitely need to go. If you live in a low-lying area on a barrier island or mobile home, you need to seek shelter before that storm arrives. And if you don't live in an evacuation area, you still need to take a look at your home and make sure it's safe. You don't need to wait till the last minute. Many coastal roads could be underwater well in advance of the storm. Hurricane Ike came in 12 hours sooner than expected, and 3,000 people in Bolivar Peninsula off Galveston had to be rescued by boat and plane, or rather helicopter and jet skis before the storm winds even arrived. So make sure you don't wait till the last minute. If your home was built after 2002 and you're not in an evacuation level, you'd probably be more comfortable sheltering in place. You may lose power. You want to have those battery operated lights and water and all your supplies with you, of course. In 2005, the University of Florida did a study, and they concluded homes built after the 2002 under the building code, which has been approved every year since, had less damage on average than homes between 94 and 01 under the old building code. So if you determine your home is not safe, stay with a friend or family or leave the area. Emergency management agencies recommend that you arrange to stay at a host home, which with shutters and is safe outside of the evacuation level. So talk about that now with friends or family, whether you can invite somebody in or whether you can go and stay with them. When I went home on Saturday of Hurricane Irma to put up my hurricane shutters, I discovered they were already up. I asked my wife who did that, and our neighbors had come together and talked to her. They knew what I was doing at the EOC, so they put up my shutters for me. So I went to return the favor, and I found that none of them had shutters, and they were going to be in their homes for Irma with their families. So we invited them all into our home. I believe there were about 10 people, several children, 5 dogs, and they rode out the storm there safely. So you may want to, if you have the luxury of doing that, if you're fortunate enough to be able to do that, invite others in, or talk to those folks that do have a home outside the area so you can stay there. And a host home is basically a friend or family member who's agreed to provide you that temporary shelter. If you're going to leave the area, be prepared. Evacuate early. Head inland to avoid the high winds and heavy rain. So we like to say in emergency management, run from the water and hide from the wind. If you can do those 2 things, you will survive any hurricane. Now, if an evacuation is called for and you do not evacuate, you may be without fire rescue or law enforcement or even emergency medical support until the winds and waters subside. So please don't take those chances. It's not a good idea to stay behind if you are in an evacuation area. Now, you may get lucky. We may have a storm like Irma, which turns and does not create the surge that we were expecting. However, when we made that decision, that is what the Weather Service and the Hurricane Center predicted for our area, and we had to take action based on that. Now, you want to protect your home. We talked about this already. Protect your windows, glass doors, your front door. Even if you don't have glass on your front door, if you have a double door that opens, you want to make sure you can secure that either with shutters on the outside or have bolts going up and down into the beam and into the floor to keep that door from being pushed open. Make sure you fill your vehicle, gas tank, and if you have extra cans, use them carefully. Some of you may have seen the video that was going around during Irma. I believe Bob Harrigan from ABC7 shared it on his Facebook page, where somebody was actually filling up Home Depot buckets, the Homer buckets, without lids, and putting them inside their SUV. As you know, fuel is a very volatile substance, and it can create an explosion. So please don't do that. Use the properly rated cans and use those for your generator or other items. Do not drive around with them in your vehicle because you will create a big problem. And of course, make sure you get some cash. ATMs may not work. Credit cards may not be able to be accepted if certain infrastructure is damaged. If you own a business or a property, you want to make sure you protect it as well. Make sure that you notify your suppliers and your customers and use your business continuity plan. There were a lot of restaurants that didn't typically do takeout before COVID-19, but once the restaurants were not allowed to open with indoor dining, many of them got creative and began doing this. Some restaurant vendors are actually preparing food and then taking it out to a particular area and notifying people that can pay in advance through a mobile pay app, drive up to the location without even getting out of your car and picking up the item. So very creative things are happening, but make sure you protect yourself as well. Now everyone packs their own. Like I said, you want to do for more than 72 hours, but you got to think about the things that you'll need. Imagine going camping with nothing but the clothes on your back. You will not have a very good time there. You will probably be eaten up by mosquitoes. You won't sleep very well. So in a shelter or an evacuation center or wherever you go, you should have this go bag, this 72-hour kit with the important documents, flashlight, clothes, and such. You're going to need additional items if you evacuate to an evacuation center. We'll talk about that some more, but you need to bring all those items with you. Now, hurricane evacuation centers are there for the public, but you should be considered a last resort. We like to say they are the lifeboat, not the cruise ship. Although cruise ships right now are not a good place to be anyway. But consider this the last resort if you have no friends or family to go to, no other place, and you need to come. Just keep in mind we're going to have some changes because of COVID-19. Typically, normally, before this, each person got about 20 square feet, which isn't much, but you shared that space with other evacuees, whether you knew them or not. Sometimes large groups would come together and be able to bunk in similar rooms. For COVID-19 guidelines, we're looking at the social distancing. We're looking at spatial distance between evacuees, keeping families together, but allowing others to at least be 6 feet apart, if not more. And we will be looking at the necessity of masks. So we ask people to bring them anyway, just in case. What can you expect if we do open a hurricane shelter during the coronavirus COVID-19 situation? You can expect a health screening before entering, which may consist of a questionnaire and a temperature check with a thermal thermometer. We're working with the health department to establish exactly how that would happen. You want to bring your own cloth mask or hand sanitizer. There are a lot of sites on the web, on YouTube, on the CDC site, even the Surgeon General himself shows you how to make a mask out of a household item, t-shirt, bandana, washcloth. And these are just basically to help prevent that spreading, especially if you are sick yourself, and we'll talk about that. Bring your own mask and hand sanitizer as well. There will be sinks and places to wash up in the schools that are used as shelters, and the custodial team will be cleaning and disinfecting, but you should still continue that hand washing practice and try not to touch your face with unwashed hands. Some of the things we're looking at is no more than 10 people in a classroom, which typically holds about 30, and enhanced areas where we may have to spread people apart even further in larger rooms. We'll be doing frequent cleaning of surfaces, and we may have to create smaller groups or social distance space in the food lines. The school district culinary manager was on our call this morning, and we discussed their practice of how they feed in the shelters, and they've been talking about the different methods. They've recently been using a method to serve meals to the public at each school. The students from kindergarten through 12 are allowed to go there with a family member and get meals, so that they got some practice in doing this under the COVID-19 conditions. You want to plan your evacuation route. You don't want to wait till last minute, and you need to realize that I-75 is practically always under construction at some point or another, and not all the lanes may be accessible. So you want to have at least 2 ways that you can evacuate. And you want to think about other routes besides I-75. Some of the inland roads, 64, 72, 70, will take you to the Highway 27, to all the way to I-95. So your best bet may be to evacuate east and then north or south, instead of trying to get on the interstate, which is going to be crowded very quickly. Hurricane Irma taught us a lot of lessons. Everybody here experienced probably tropical storm force winds, but everyone prepared for a major hurricane. And fortunately, that did not occur, but we did have an opportunity to look at our procedures, and we'll talk about some of the new things that are available under that. We did an after-action review, which we do after every event. This one was facilitated by a contractor, and we brought in Craig Fugate, the former FEMA administrator and former director of the State Division of Emergency Management, Jonathan Lord, who is the county EM director in Flagler County, Alan Harris from Seminole County, and Manny Soto from the city of Orlando. All of them helped provide feedback. We held various stakeholder meetings and collected data, and we facilitated meetings with peer reviewers and stakeholders, and finally put out together a report, which is available at the emergency management website if you care to go back. But that gave us 93 enhancements to our program that we have implemented over the last couple of years. One of them was the transportation dependent plan. This plan helps people that do no longer drive or those who do not feel comfortable driving from, let's say, Venice or Englewood, where we cannot have shelters at this time, to a inland county or inland city shelter in Northport or North Sarasota, and they just can't get there. Or they can drive to the rally point, which we would set up, and get on the bus and be taken. And for those that have no transportation and can't get to the rally point on their own, they can register on our site to be picked up at their home. The way you do this is you go to scgov.net. Again, I want to, and this time you want to register for Transportation Evacuation Center. If you don't have a computer, you can call 861-5000 and they can register you on the program. We have about 250 people that have submitted application for that we will contact before the storm and pick up, take them to the rally point or directly to a shelter. There's a series of rally points throughout the county that we will send to the media so they can notify everyone where they're at. And then this is the registration form. When you click on that and fill it out, you'll be told, you'll be given instructions. You do not have to register just to use the rally point or go get on a bus, but you do have to if you need to be picked up at your home. Now, a program previously known as the People with Special Needs, and still known as that in many areas, we deemed a medical needs program. These are people that day to day, they're fine. They have home health care that comes in. They may be oxygen dependent, power dependent, need assistance with various things. But during a hurricane, those services may stop. And if this person is power dependent, oxygen dependent, lives in a low-lying area, mobile home, or in an evacuation area, we're going to go make arrangements to either pick them up or let them know what shelter to go to. So to do that, I want to register for medical needs. The medical needs program page will come up, and the person can either print the form and fill it out and mail it in to the address provided, or they can fill it out right there online, and the data will be entered right into the system. The address is right there. It's the Emergency Operations Center at 6050 Porter Way, Sarasota 34232, and we even have a fax number. Now, this is very important that only people that have those medical needs register. Now, and they can bring a dependent or caregiver that's under the age, under school age. A child can come as well, but they need to make sure that they indicate that and let us know how many people they will be bringing. We can't have neighbors and cousins and people beyond the immediate family be part of this, especially now where we have to be using limited space or ample space, but limited capacity for people. Manatee County also has a special needs program or medical needs program. Their application can be found at www.mymanatee.org/needs. And that way they'll be able to sign up for the program and be counted in to either transportation or to arrive at one of those special medical shelters. Medical needs evacuation centers normally give about 60 square feet for yourself, caregiver, and belongings. That space may need to be increased due to COVID-19, or at least the space between each of these 60 square foot spaces. Prior to Irma, in the history of Sarasota County, we've only opened about 3 to 4 shelters and housed about 200 to 300 pets. Hurricane Irma was the exception. It broke records. We opened up 13 evacuation centers. We had 20,000 people and over 3,000 pets. This year, all 11 of these schools you see here will open up as hurricane evacuation centers. They will open simultaneously, and again, there will be limited space for people once we institute the COVID-19 social distance planning, if we need to at the time of a hurricane comes. Now, hopefully, we're out of it, and they've come up with ways to either detect or to cure, and we won't have a serious effect, but we have to plan for the worst and hope for the best. After Irma, we designated all evacuation centers pet friendly. The reason for this was people showed up at at shelters anyway, whether they were pet friendly or not, and they created a mess. So it was better to be prepared. So every school has an evacuation center pet area, the 11 that we use, and the medical needs facilities, so that we can house the pets in there. Now remember, this is dogs and cats with the proper documentation. We do not accept boa constrictors and snakes and things like that. Manatee County has a variety of shelters, and 3 of them are pet friendly. So make sure that if you have a pet, it's included in your plan, that you take them to one of these 3. And that's also in their hurricane guide. After Irma, I got a lot of questions from the media and folks about whether it was all clear. That's a term we've heard before. However, what are you clear from? If the storm is over, you're clear from the storm, but you're not clear from dangerous conditions like traffic signals being out and such. So red is immediately before the storm, into the storm, and immediately afterwards, where emergency services may not be available. Many people do not realize that when the winds reach 55 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour, depending on the chief officer's discretion, all emergency response vehicles are pulled into a safe location and protected along with the crew, and they will not roll out on a 911 call. We will simply handle the 911 calls through guidance over the phone, and we've done that in the past. Our dispatchers are very good and very well trained to stop the bleeding, teach somebody, how to go through hands-only CPR, how to clear an airway, how to dress a bandage or something like that, stop bleeding. So we've even gone as far as, I believe, helping somebody deliver a baby in some instances that have happened in the past. I don't know if Sarasota County did that, but I know counties that have. Access may not be allowed or limited according to authority having the jurisdiction, especially if bridges are gone. So you want to have proper ID, and if you have employees that need to get back to your facility to help and begin repairs and assessments, you want to give them a letter on your letterhead for your organization stating that this person has critical emergency management responsibilities for you, and have their name and a photo ID. If they have a photo ID that shows the business, that helps, but it's just basically a photo ID till they can match the name on there. Yellow is power's out, trees and power lines are down, traffic lights may be out. We want everybody to treat traffic signals that are broken as a 4-way stop, but you need to make sure you do that because there are some people who just fly right through it. There could be some potential damage to drinking and wastewater facilities. We will advise you of that if it happens, but you need to be prepared for that. Use normal safety precautions and limit your travel. Green is no limiting factors. Everything's pretty much safe and you can go back to normal. Re-entry is something that happens after a major storm. We have to make sure the bridges are safe, and we have to make sure that only emergency responders can get onto those islands and those areas that need to be checked out for safety. At some point, employees and residents will be able to come across, but again, you have to have information proving that you have a reason to be over there, whether through a business or that your home or property is out there and you need to secure it. We also enhanced our public information process. We did several press conferences with our leadership team during Hurricane Irma. We will continue that practice twice a day, but they've also enhanced my office, where I'm speaking to you from right now, with some ceiling lights and a monitor and microphone. So we'll be able to go live in between press conferences through Facebook Live. The media will have access to that feed so that we can determine what information can get out to you and that they can utilize it to get information to the public. We also use social media quite extensively. So Sarasota County Emergency Services Facebook, you will be able to go in there and see the latest information right now for COVID-19 and eventually hurricanes. And you will be able to watch videos through either the Sarasota County YouTube or on Facebook Live, which were recorded if you didn't get to see them live. Manatee County does the same practice. They also have a Facebook page that you can reach. And we also utilize Twitter. Our Twitter feed is used to inform the media and others of things that we're getting ready to do. We can share a map, a document, or things to that effect with them. We prepared a series of preparedness fact sheets on different steps that you need to take to get ready. We have these available online at our website at scgov.net under Hurricane Preparedness. You'll be able to go out in there and print these out. And if we do expos or shows, we will have these two-sided PDF documents color with us to give out to folks. This is something new this year. That's going to be part of the Hurricane Guide from the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. It's actually a game board. Kids can play along with this, but it basically talks you through the process of whether you should stay home or whether you should go. And again, if you live in a home that was built under the new building code with hurricane shutters or impact windows, you're not in a flood or evacuation area, you're better off at home. You may lose power, but you will lose power at one of the elementary school evacuation centers as well. Something new as well for notification is Alert Sarasota County. This will be coming out in May. Many of you are familiar with the Code Red notification system that we used for many years. We are transitioning over to this, and it also allows our 4 cities to have residents sign up, and you'll be able to get more information on that shortly. And this will help you stay informed, stay alert, and you can register either for your email, text messages, your cell phone calls, anything that's listed here. And you can also subscribe to additional alerts if you want to know about a particular item, like the red tide updates, hazardous material incidents, evacuation center openings, and things like that. It's only limited to what you want to take in. This is something as well, if you haven't already done this, if you live in Manatee County, you want to text the word Manatee Ready, one word, no space, to 888-777, and you will receive text messages similar to the one to the left, maybe the right on your screen, but to the left of the screen here, and you'll get messages like that. For Sarasota County, use SRQ COVID-19, 888-777. For the entire state of Florida, you can do FL COVID-19 to 888-777 as well. And you can even enter your zip code to only get alerts pertaining to your area where you live. That's pretty much it. I am going to hand it back over to Karen to see if there's any questions out there that you guys want to field.
Okay, and Nancy has a question. If we are already signed up for the Code Red, do we need to re-enroll in the alert system and unenroll in the Code Red?
Yes, you don't have to unenroll if you don't want to, but you do need to register in the new one. Once we terminate the contract with Code Red, we will no longer be able to contact you, and the database will be gone. But if you want to take the time to unenroll, you may do that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Ed this afternoon? Okay, I don't see any questions coming in, Ed.
That's great. Hopefully I covered everything people were thinking about. Again, I appreciate everybody getting on the call and taking the time to get in here and learn a little bit, and hopefully you can share that information with the rest of your residents or your property owners.
Oh, wait,
so with that, stay safe. Don't forget about all the COVID-19 requirements and CDC guidelines to stay safe.
Okay, if there are no other questions, wait a minute, I've got one. Can we get a copy of the presentation? We are videoing the presentation and Zoom will send it to me. They do have passwords on them now. We have to unpassword them and try to get them up. So check on our website tomorrow. And I'm wondering if she's talking about your PowerPoint presentation.
Well, that's a little bit more difficult to send because it's a very large document. But I can, if someone sends me an email at emcrane@scgov.net, I'll see what I can do to get them the slides. We'll try different ways to do it. They may have a file server or have some type of a link that I can send a document to, but it won't go through regular email.
Yeah, and as I said, if you do want to watch the video again of the PowerPoint and of this presentation, give us a day or so to get it up on our website, because we do have to finagle it just a little bit. Are there any other questions? Okay, I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. And Ed, thank you so much for your presentation. As always, it was very informative.
All right, thank you, Karen. I appreciate the opportunity. Let me know if I can help with anything else in the future.
Just hopefully we won't have a need to worry about the hurricanes this year.
From your lips to God's ears. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Take
All
care.
right. Thank you, Ed. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.